We're rolling? Hello, my name is Teresita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and this is Saturnastra Marduke, the start of Chapter 10, Part 1, Mother. Once the old city was pacified, I had a month's leave. During that time, I wanted to inform my mother of my stepfather's tragic demise. By now, it had been 2 months since my younger sister Cleo had been born. According to my mother's letter, Cleo was a healthy baby girl with green eyes and curly red hair. I wonder much about this strange fact, considering that neither Sarah nor anyone of my mother's family had red hair. As I made my way to my mother's abode, I made my way to my mother's abode via carriage. I pondered much on this mystery. I figured that my mother had probably cheated on my stepfather. The ride was a slow one, and I didn't care much to look outside the window. A downpour, it's rolling?
Yeah.
A downpour was falling, and it made process difficult. I had brought with me only my civilian attires and a couple of daggers, just in case. After a day's journey, I arrived at the Countess's estate. That day, I was wearing the attire I wore for my father's funeral. The blackness of my attire made me feel hot beneath the summer sun. From outside, the estate looked like a solid citadel. When we got beyond the walls, there was a lovely garden filled with exotic birds and flowers. The entire place breathed high class. The central manor was extremely wide, and it only had 2 floors. It had many windows opening to the garden. There was not a room in the house that did not have a lovely view. Behind the manor, there was a hot water sauna. It extended for quite a bit. Beyond there was a tiny forest with a few deer here and there. Most of the animals were there just for show. It was forbidden to hunt any of them. 2 servants opened the portal for me. The interior of the manor was just as luxurious as the outside. The walls were decorated with paintings of my mother's ancestors. From time to time, I saw a decorated knight's armor. The furniture was finely ornamented. What I most noted was the presence of light. Everything was illuminated. The main hallway had the roof made of crystal, and the other rooms were regular. They received their light from the open windows. I thought there was not a single remote spot in the house that did not have sunlight. As soon as I got inside, I was greeted by the Countess. She was a stern maiden, barely scraping her feasty. She wore a black wig, makeup, and a flamboyant blue dress. She had a fan in one of her hands. When she saw me, she made a small curtsy. I responded in kind. This little joke of mine made her strike my head with her fan. She hit him. She smiled afterwards and she said, "I see my daughter never bothered to teach you manners." She did. However, army life has a way of hardening a man. I responded, smiling back. She seemed annoyed at my response, judging by the way she was tapping her hand with her fan, like tick, 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 tick. She then added, "That is no excuse. I met many a soldiers who are refined." Frankly, I was not in the mood to argue with the old hag. I kneeled before her and I kissed her hand. To this gesture, she responded, "Much better." Afterwards, she gave me a brief tour of the house. When I asked her where my mother was, she said, "My daughter's in the forest with Leo and Cleo." "Thank you, Grandma," I answered and started running towards the forest. I could hear the old hag belly aching as I ran. To her, I was the most ill-mannered brat she had ever met. I never had too much patience for high-class pretensions and refinery. When I arrived through the forest, quote-unquote, I saw my mother having a picnic with her 2 small children. A table and chairs had been brought out for luncheon, and my mother was wearing a lovely blue dress very similar to the one worn by my grandmother. As for my brother, he too was he was wearing a blue shirt and black shorts with black shoes. 2 empty seats were reserved. Mother had her baby in a sort of baby stroller with high round wheels. The little girl wore a long white gown made of soft linen. She seemed to be sleeping. Beside the baby stood a wet nurse dressed in a simple white dress with an apron. Next to Mother, there was a butler pouring honeyed wine. When she saw me, she asked me to sit down, and we had a picnic together. Afterwards, I whispered to her, "We have something to talk about." She led me to her bedchambers, and there we spoke. After musing, I figured it was best not to beat around the bushes. I said plainly, almost coldly to her, "Your husband is dead." She almost seemed to faint by the news. She sat on the bed and struggled to breathe. When she recovered from her shock, she started to cry most bitterly. I didn't know how to comfort her. When she was done crying, she hugged me to her chest. It had been a long time since she had held me that way, not since Leo had been born anyway. Afterwards, in a soft whisper, she said, "Tell me, how did he—" No, I don't want to know. She released me after this last interchange. I left the room in silence. Time?
8 minutes.
By now the sun was setting, and I saw in a corner Leo smiling at me. He had the expression of a mischievous little imp. Giggling, he said, "So you did kill the bastard." I sat in a couch before him and looked at him in the eye. I then responded in a casual fashion. I stabbed him once, though I was not the one who gave the finishing blow. He gave me a confused look, and he added in a sweet voice, I don't get it." "What's there to get? You are free from his tyranny," I snapped back. This made him run away from me. He came back giggling, and he added, "I don't like sharing, Mama." "You don't like sharing too, brother. You killed him because you hate sharing." "Yet I share her with you." The response left Leo thoughtful. After 10 minutes of spacing out, he added, "I guess if you share her with me, I can share her love with Cleo." Smiling, I added, "You should do more than put up with Cleo." "Why should I?" asked Leo. "'Cause you are her big brother. Plus, since that's gone, you will have to act like her father," I added, looking sternly at him. He gave his wicked smile again, and he asked, "Like our father or like a good father?" "Do you even need to ask?" I responded. "Yes, to him," I said. "Want me to take you on a piggyback ride?" Smiling, Leo jumped on my back and locked his arms around my neck. He kicked my ribs and said, "Giddy up." I spent the rest of the day as my brother's horse. I hoped to find many imaginary battles against the maids and the servants. While running, we almost broke several expensive ornaments. The servants who observed our game took care to keep the entire manor from falling apart. By nightfall, my grandmother could not put up with any more with our games. She had us sit down before her, and she started giving us a sewing lesson in the living room. She put it to sew, knit. In the living room, it had a fireplace and many cushioned couches to sit on. On the wall one wall was entirely paved with book cabinets or leisurely subjects. Parallel to it, there was a piano. Before the fireplace, there were many high windows opening to the garden. The fragrance of the flowers often swept in whenever a warm breeze would pass by. The sewing was a tedious occupation, however, it kept us from tearing down the house. After 2 hours of this, Leo said he wanted to go to sleep. A servant took him to his bed. I was left alone with my grandmother. She seemed very pensive, doing her needlework. The fire blazed and cracked before her eyes. Looking at me, she said, I wish to inquire upon your past. I only know what my mother said or what my daughter said of you. If you remember anything previous, it would be beneficial for you to acquiesce to my petition. I yawned in response. Do you remember anything about your real parents, whether highborn or lowborn? She asked, looking at me sternly. Disdainfully, I asked, putting down my needlework. Is status really that important to you? No. I just want to know the proper way I should address you, she said, not looking up from her work. It would not kill you to treat me like your grandson, I said, rising from my chair. Just because my daughter has taken a fancy to you does not make you family. Her next answer amused me a lot. To her, blood ties and rap meant everything. In a way, she was not so different than those isolated elves living in their high tower. I left her with her curiosity. That night, I spent it full of solitary dreams. Near the morning, I had a dream of my family. We were all holding hands and dancing in a circle. All the while, we sang our mother's lullaby. Eventually, we were discovered by a shepherd. When he saw this creepy thing, he screamed out before running away. Together, we ran deeper into the forest, giggling. During those days, we scared many shepherds with our favorite pastime. We knew that our ghostly appearance and our identical faces freaked people out. We used to spend many hours plotting ghostly encounters. I awoke when the sun rose, both here and in the real world and in the dream world. For the next week, my grandma did not give me a moment of peace. When my mother or Leo was not around, she would inquire into my past. Like any noble woman, she assumed that my silence stood for culpability. When mother was not around, she would treat me no different than a servant whelp. I decided to give her a brief account of my true parents. I said to her, my mother was a general. When she got bored of army life, she decided she would start helping others. As for my father, he was an ambassador. He met my mother during one of his trips. This answer satisfied my grandmother. She took a discerned truth from lies. Therefore, I knew I could not lie to her. Once she was satisfied to the purity of my blood, I became one of her clan. She started being more cordial with me. She always had a sweet or a ring or a tiny little present for me. My mother too noticed my grandmother change her attitude towards me. This helped ease my mother's suffering a little. Things went without a hitch until my last week there. My younger brother was enjoying himself a little too much with my presence. He grew rather pensive in the last week. On the fifth day, he came to me and he ordered, "Stay with me." I patted his small head and I said, "Sorry, someone has to work for a living." "You don't have to work. Grandma stands rich. You don't have to work," he said with tears rolling down his eyes. Smiling, I said, Leo, it seems we're only so simple." "Why do you have to go back?" Leo pleaded again. "Because I have to." "No, you don't. You can do whatever you want. If you like fighting so much, then become one of grandmother's knights. You can fight in the tournaments, or you can beat up the servants. Please, just don't go. I need you here," he cried again. "No need to worry, little brother. Even if we're apart, I will still find my way into your dreams," I said, hugging him. He pushed me back in disgust and he added, "If you leave, I will tell Mama that you killed our father." "Go ahead, tell her. Let's see if she believes you." I snapped back, losing my patience with the brat. I left him to have his tantrum alone. While leaving the room, I noticed that my grandmother was glaring at me again. The next day, she invited me to have tea with her alone. Time?
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Naturally, I accepted her request. Most of the time, we spoke of pleasantries. She commented on the weather while I spoke of the flower. I knew at any moment she would pop the question. It was phrased as thus: "I wish to inquire on the pleasantries you exchanged with my grandson." There was nothing pleasant about our conversation, grandmother. Leo was just being very worried about me returning to the army, I said, sipping my tea. "The boy idolizes you so," she added while fanning herself. "Perhaps you would like to take up arms in my name." My hands are tied," I responded, crossing my hands as if they were tied by invisible ropes. Afterwards, I added, "Maybe later. I still have some unfinished business in Veragero. Once my business there is concluded, I will take you up on that offer." "Pray to tell me about this business of yours. Perhaps I may lend you aid," she added with her usual disdain. "It's one of those impossible tasks," I answered. Time?
Minute 30 seconds.
When she heard it, my grandmother started laughing. It was the first time I had seen her laugh since I met her. She laughed for quite a bit. I sternly ignored her. She then said while still laughing, "You crazy boy, you must have a death wish or something." "Hardly. I am much attached to this flesh and bone," I responded, sinking back into my seat. "Boy, you are too serious," she said, laughing at me again. "So I heard. I had the bad habit of prioritizing my mission so much that I drag others down with me." "So what is this I hear about you murdering Leo's father?" she asked. "I did not kill my stepfather, although I did try to kill him." My casual response shocked the old woman's sensitivity. She started reaching for her belt and then she stopped. Alright. Let's just end it here. Bye bye and God bless.